Good morning. We appreciate everyone joining us this morning. If everyone would please take a seat. Also, kindly put your cell phone on mute or vibrate in order to avoid interruptions. And I would like the committee to indulge me because I have a special guest today. My husband, Dave Huff, is here today. He has been asking me, are you all going to address NIL? So I told him that we were going to hear this bill in committee Tuesday. And he decided he wanted to come and see me in action. Now, I have chaired a committee for 6 years, and the man has never mentioned coming to see me in action. But he is here today, and I want to take this opportunity, since I'm sure he probably won't want to come and see me in action again, to thank him for the support he's given me throughout the years of serving. You know, the spouse has a tough job. So I want to make sure that I give him credit, because he has really, truly been a blessing to me as we have navigated this political arena together. So I appreciate him joining me today. Oh. And there's some up here saying, God bless you, but they will be taken care of later. Oh, with that, Mariah, please call the roll.
Representative Baker.
Present.
Representative Banta.
Present.
Representative Bojanowski.
Present in the room.
Representative Decker.
Present.
Representative Donahue.
Yes, ma'am. Present.
Representative Dossett. Representative Hart.
Present in the room.
Representative Koenig. Here in the room. Representative Lewis.
Present.
Representative Massey.
Present in the room.
Representative McCool.
Here.
Representative Miller.
Here.
Representative Gibbons Prunty.
Here in the room.
Representative Rayburn.
Present in the room.
Representative Scott.
Present.
Representative Timoney.
Present.
Representative Tipton.
Present in the room.
Representative Weber.
Present in the room.
Representative White. Representative Wilner.
Here.
Vice Chair Riley.
Here.
Chair Huff.
Present. Again, thank you for joining us. This is our 5th meeting of the House Education Committee. I need to do some housekeeping real quickly. Guests, if you wish to speak on a bill that we're hearing today, then you need to sign in on the sign-in sheet and for any additional testimony, and that will be at the chair's discretion. Sometimes we run short of time, so I want to make you aware that if you would like to speak, please make sure that you sign in. Also, if members are participating remotely, they can be considered present and vote on bills if they are participating in their annex office only. If you're participating remotely but not in your annex office, you can participate in the discussion of a bill, but you will not be counted present and you cannot vote. When you join the meeting, remotely, your mic will be automatically muted. So please remember to unmute your mic if you before speaking. If you have any questions, please put those within the chat function. Our first bill for consideration today will be House Bill 283, an act relating to student teachers' background checks. If the sponsor would please go to the table. If you have any guests, have them join you, introduce yourself, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Riley, District 23. I know I have the most interesting bill today, but I want to expedite it so we can get to the boring bills,
Motion
okay?
bill.
All right, the bill basically just says that it allows school districts to accept background checks from accredited teacher education programs. In other words, student teachers can use the background check they have in schools. That's basically all it does.
Thank
Motion
you.
on the bill.
Well, we have many motions in many seconds, but we will take motion on the bill by, let's see, who would do the first one? Massey, and a second by Representative Miller. Seeing no questions, Mariah, please call the roll.
Representative Baker.
Yes.
Representative Banta.
Yes.
Representative Bojanowski.
Yes.
Representative Decker.
Yes.
Representative Donahue.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Dossett. Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Koenig. Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Massey.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yes.
Representative Gibbons Prunty.
Yes.
Representative Rayburn.
Yes.
Representative Riley.
Yes.
Representative Scott.
Yes.
Representative Timoney.
Yes.
Representative Tipton.
Yes.
Representative Weber.
Yes.
Representative White. Representative Wilner.
Yes.
Chair Huff.
Yes. House Bill 83 passes with expression of opinion. That's the same should pass. 283.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Madam
so
Chair.
much. Our next bill for consideration will be House Bill 517, an act relating to education and declaring an emergency. Representative Reed, do you have any guests with you today?
Second.
Boy, we're taking care of business today. I wish I had a bill. They must have. That was a heavy breakfast, evidently. Okay, we have. Do you want to mention the individual that's this bill is named for?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. HB 517 is the House's attempt to correct the injustice to the young men and women across the Commonwealth who come to Page for the General Assembly for the day, but are then marked absent at school. With HB 517 starting from the beginning of the 2021-2022 school year, all students who choose to come to Page for the General Assembly will be marked present at school for the day. You're also seeing the committee sub that we are bringing the state fair provision forward so it's easier to find in statute. It was kind of hard to find in statute, so we're clearing that up a little bit. I would like to say a special thank you to Frank Willie, his grandson, Wyatt Copley, for bringing this issue to the attention of the General Assembly. Wyatt gave up perfect attendance this year to come and to be a Page for Chairman Petrie and myself. The committee substitute takes care of this provision and also calls it the Wyatt Act. I can thank no one better deserving than to name this after Wyatt for his sacrifice that he gave to the General Assembly to be a Page for us that day. Wyatt is a bright young man and with a future full of endless possibilities. With that, Madam Chairman, I thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a vote on the committee sub first. We have a motion by Representative Tipton, a second by Representative Gibbons Prunty. All in favor? All opposed? Committee sub is adopted. Now on the bill, do we have a motion on the bill?
Motion on the bill?
We have a motion by Representative Gibbons Prunty, a second by Representative Rayburn. Any questions? If not, I'm sorry, Representative Tipton.
Madam Chair, thank you, Representative Reed, for bringing this, and I certainly appreciate that. Our pages who come and serve of it's a wonderful opportunity, and I dare say they learn more in the House and the Senate that day than they would at school. My question is more specifically to the State Fair, just for my information. We have many young people who are actually at the State Fair for many days, especially as someone who's exhibited livestock, dairy cattle at State Fair when I was a lot younger. And this grants them one day. Would it then be up to the local school district as to whether or not any additional days would be excused absences or not?
Yes, sir. They was given one day. That's been in statute for a while, but it was hard to find. So this was just a staff suggestion to bring it up to this statute. So they'll get guaranteed anybody in public school who wants a day at the State Fair can get a day, and this provides for that. But if there's additional days like FFA and 4-H, I mean, you know as well as I do, when we was in FFA, when school started, we was probably at the State Fair probably a week and a half before we even seen a class. So that's up to the local school district as well. But this guarantees at least one day at the State Fair.
Representative Lewis.
Just a quick comment. Appreciate the bill and appreciate you bringing this. I also would like to remind the committee and everyone else that most districts have educational enhancement days also that are approved for a lot of educational activities that happen off the school grounds. So it'd be up to the individual district to do that, but most districts that I don't do have those. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Mariah, please call the roll.
Representative Baker.
Yes.
Representative Banta,
Yes.
Representative Bojanowski,
Yes.
Representative Decker,
Yes.
Representative Donahue,
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Dossett,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Koenig, Representative Lewis,
Yes.
Representative Massey,
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Miller,
Yes.
Representative Gibbons Prunty,
Yes.
Representative Rayburn,
Yes.
Representative Riley,
Yes.
Representative Scott,
Yes.
Representative Timoney,
Yes.
Representative Tipton,
Yes.
Representative Weber,
Yes.
Representative White, Representative Wilner,
Yes.
Chair Huff.
Yes. House Bill 517 passes with the expression of the opinion that the same should pass with the committee sub attached thereto. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
My pleasure. Thank you. We're going to go just a little bit out of order. Next, we will hear Senate Bill 6, an act relating to athletics and declaring an emergency. If the sponsors and guests would come to the table, please introduce yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Max Wise, Senate District 16.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senator Morgan McGarvey, Senate District 19.
Katie George.
Jeff Walls.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing us the opportunity this morning to present Senate Bill 6. It's an act relating to athletics and declaring an emergency. First, I want to start off by thanking the person to my left, Senator McGarvey, for his help along the way with this piece of legislation. We have worked on this in a bipartisan measure starting back in the summer when we held a press conference in June after the governor had made an executive order relating to name, image, and likeness. And our plans then were to work throughout the interim to codify language into statutory language and to solidify that. This is an issue, unfortunately, that the legislature should not be having to deal with because it should have been handled many years ago by the NCAA. The NCAA had many opportunities where they could have taken this on, made rulings that could have affected all of college athletes, but they put their head in the sand. They refused to take this issue up. And fortunately, it was taken up then by the United States Supreme Court, and that then relates to where we are today. Our U.S. Congress has also not acted on this, and to use also a football analogy, I would say they will continue to punt this particular type of issue. And so that's why we're here today to present to you Senate Bill 6. Senate Bill 6 deals with name, image, and likeness. We are living in a time right now of college athletics that is truly changing daily. And I mean by that is issues like name, image, likeness is states are having to take on legislation and to look at ways to codify what other states are doing or maybe what other states are not doing. We feel like we have a model piece of legislation here that has been vetted through all of our colleges and universities here in the Commonwealth. It has the support of our college athletes. It has the support of our universities. It provides flexibility, and it provides the ability for our college athletes to say, we are open for business, and Kentucky is here for you. I would like to turn it over to Senator McGarvey for his comments, and then our guest, if that's okay, Madam Chair, to follow after that.
Thank you, Senator Wise. Thank you, members of the committee. Senator Wise is exactly right. This is an example of where the NCAA put its head in the sand and refused to get it out until the Supreme Court made it. The NCAA is the best entity to deal with this. They didn't. The next best entity to deal with this is in the federal government. They haven't done anything either. It filtered down to the states in part because of the Supreme Court's ruling, which made it legal, and then the NCAA's follow-up. The NCAA actually said no matter what a state does, whether it's legal or illegal in state statute, the athletes can still participate in having their name, image, and likeness with no guardrails or no parameters. What this bill does is it sets some of those guardrails and parameters while providing great flexibility to the institution. And most importantly, I think it specifically allows the universities to help the students. This gives the students the resources. So, for example, when we were starting this, before the governor got involved with his executive order and then afterwards, there were questions from the universities to us. can we help these students by providing legal advice? Can we help these students by providing financial advice? We've made that explicitly allowed in the statute. Now, we do get into some things, but again, we try to give the boards of these institutions great flexibility. That comes from feedback from the universities themselves all across the Commonwealth. We do say that you cannot get involved in a name, image, and likeness bill that has to do with sports betting, a controlled substance, that a substance that the NCAA forbids. You can't promote that. Adult entertainment or products or services that would be illegal for the student athlete to be involved with at the time. Other than that, the institution gets to set what those policies are. And so, this is one where we're allowing the students to have their name, image, and likeness, to profit off their name, image, and likeness. We're allowing the universities to provide financial services, legal services to help the students involved in this. And we're making sure that this is a safe and competitive environment for Kentucky student athletes. So because the closest I've ever come to being a college athlete is sitting at the same table as Coach Walls and Katie George, I'm going to let them talk a little bit about how they think about it.
Feel free, Katie, and then I'll.
Good morning. My name is Katie George. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I played volleyball for the University of Louisville from the fall of 2012 to December of 2015. Being a student athlete is very busy. You're juggling a whole lot of tasks, commitments. I absolutely love my time as a student athlete at the University of Louisville. After my fall freshman season, I went into the spring thinking I'd have more free time. That's not the case, as Jeff Walls can attest to. Just because you're not in season doesn't mean you're not practicing just as hard, working out just as hard, going to tutors, going to classes. You're still juggling the day-to-day of being a student athlete. I was lucky enough to be on a full ride, which means volleyball is a fully funded sport. Everything was paid for from my, education, my tuition, my books, my board. But obviously scholarships only go so far. So, I had monthly money afterwards for groceries to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and then maybe, a dress here or there or an outfit that I wanted for the weekend. But no opportunities to really make a whole lot of money because you didn't have the time to have a full-time job or a part-time job for that matter. So I knew that I wanted to get into broadcasting. I took an unpaid internship at WLKY, the local Louisville affiliate for CBS, and I managed to juggle all of that in the spring. I was then approached, and I'm telling you this story because I think it's important and it's just a small example of the opportunities I didn't have that now student athletes do get to have. I was approached by a pillow company in that spring of my freshman season, and they said, we would love for you to model for our new pillow coming out. So think like Bed Bath & Beyond when you walk in and there's all the pillows and there's an insert and there's a woman or a man just dreaming sweetly and it says, King Pillow or whatever, full pillow. My name was in no way on the insert, and it definitely didn't say Katie George, Louisville volleyball player. It was just a face on a pillow, and they said, if you come for 5 hours and do the photo shoot, we can compensate you $3,000. Well, $3,000 to a freshman in college is a really big deal, especially somebody who doesn't have time to have a job outside of playing volleyball. So I did it. It went really well. And fast forward 2 years later, I won Miss Kentucky USA in January of 2015. The pillow company congratulated me on social media, saying, here's the ad from 2 years ago. We're so proud of Katie. Best of luck at Miss USA. Well, I then got a call from the Louisville compliance office at the university, and they said, when did you do this? And I said, I think I was a freshman. I don't know, it was a couple years ago. Why? And they said, well, you didn't ask our permission. Well, I didn't think I had to ask your permission. I did it on my own time. It didn't interfere with volleyball or school. Well, we should have alerted the NCAA. And I said, well, what does that matter? And they said, you made money off of it. They probably asked you because you're a volleyball player. No, they didn't. But that was the reasoning that they gave me. And so we had to alert the NCAA. The NCAA then said, well, because you made money off of your name, image, and likeness, and that is not allowed, you have to pay the money back, which was $3,000 that I didn't have. And then they decided, instead of paying it back to the pillow company, I would have to donate it to a charity of my choice. Well, I didn't have that $3,000, so my parents begrudgingly pulled out their checkbook, and we donated $3,000 to a charity of our choice. They ruled me ineligible for the spring, of 2015, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but I didn't get to compete in any of my spring tournaments with my teammates, which was pretty devastating at the time. And then I had to do 60 hours of community service just to be reinstated by the NCAA to be able to play. I won't get into the full stories and the hoops that I had to go through just in being Miss Kentucky USA, because I wasn't able to receive any gifts, any services, any money for any of my appearances. The NCAA said, if you're going to compete at Miss USA, you are allowed to do so, but you are in no way allowed to claim that you are a volleyball player at the University of Louisville. While the University of Louisville got to put up billboards and say, our volleyball player is Miss Kentucky USA. So it's pretty backwards in the way that they do things. I'm so glad and happy that they finally have taken their head out of the sand and realized that this was coming. You have to be able to evolve with the times, and student athletes have power more than ever before, especially because of social media and the impact and the influence that they have on their communities as role models to young people. And it's not just about the money. You know, $3,000 is not a big deal, I don't think, to student athletes in its own right. But what if a student athlete got 5 of those deals in one semester? Or, 10 throughout the course of a year? That can be life-changing money. And what I would say is, not all student athletes at the collegiate level are going to get to go to the WNBA or the MLB or the NBA or the NFL. They don't have the professional leagues set up, and also they're not quite good enough to get to that level. So if you can make money for yourself and then be able to turn around and invest it, what I was able to do with some of the money that I finally eventually started making from a job once I became not an unpaid intern was I started a Roth IRA. I mean, that's been instrumental for me. And that's what student athletes, that's just a small example of what they could be doing now by making money off of their name, image, and likeness. But more important is they start building relationships with people who work for brands, who work for companies. They start networking, because after college, they might not go play pro, but that could parlay into a job, an opportunity that they didn't think was imaginable, because NIL now gives them the opportunity to do so. So I am in support of this bill, and I appreciate you both working so hard for the student athletes, and I turn it over to Jeff Walls now.
Thank you, Katie. This is my 27th year of coaching women's basketball, and I'm just honored and grateful to have the opportunity to be here today. This bill is not just about what it can do for the student athlete themselves. We have a young lady on our team by the name of Haley Van Lith, who has over 750,000 followers on Instagram. I can't even tell you the number of hundreds of thousands of followers she has on Twitter. She has signed with a marketing agency out of California. She's a national brand. But what she's done since this has now been allowed with name, image, and likeness, her first goal was to get a care package together for one of our elementary schools in the West End. With her connections, she was able to get close to 10 major companies, brands, to give donations so she and her teammates could go down at the beginning of the school year with a care package to every single student at that elementary school. It had nothing to do with her getting a dime from it. She did not profit off of that. Her teammates did not profit. Every one of them did it on their free time. Sure, she is going to benefit. Just about every single one of our players has benefited from name, image, and likeness. But I want to make sure you all understand that we have a lot of wonderful student athletes, not only at the University of Louisville, but every university in this state, who give back to the community. And this bill will allow them to do more and more of that. It is, as Katie says, it is a full-time job. And I'm really not supposed to say that because the NCAA doesn't like us to say it's a job, but it is. And the commitment that these young ladies that I coach put towards their craft, you can't put an hour on it. We have a young lady right now who's finishing up in the middle of her accelerated MBA program in her 5th year of playing at Louisville. She comes to practice on Saturdays with her earbuds in, because every third Saturday she has a class that goes from 9 to 5. And I've told her, you don't need to be at practice. She's like, I can multitask. So in the meantime, when is she supposed to work? She can't. There's no possible way. So the name, image, and likeness allows her to be able to go out and possibly make some money. Because you've got someone right now who is about to finish up an MBA program, is our second leading scorer on our team, and can use what she's been able to create for herself as possible ways to earn some money. So we appreciate, I know every single one of the coaches throughout the state, these student athletes, the work that these two gentlemen have done to put this bill in front of you, and greatly hope that you all see the benefit, not only for them, the student athlete, but for all of us in athletics and the separate communities that we're all a part of. Thank you.
Madam Chair, also, before we get into any questions or comments, I do want to thank this chamber because this is an issue that's been taken up by Representative Bowling and I think Representative Palumbo in the past. And so this is not anything new that we're looking at today. So I do appreciate all efforts from both chambers that we've worked on this over the years and now have a bill before you. But we're happy to take any questions or comments any members may have.
Thank you very much, and thank you, gentlemen, for all the work you put into this piece of legislation. I think it's important for us as a Commonwealth to address this issue, just to equalize the playing field, if you will, for Kentucky's collegiate associations to be able to offer this to athletes. And I don't think any of us could fault an athlete for looking at the states that have this in statute, that are ready to give them a program and have an understanding of what we are doing and what is offered within the NIL. So I appreciate your efforts. We do have a couple of questions. Representative Koenig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate you mentioning Representative Bowling. That was one of my goals here, was to mention that and see if you'd had the opportunity to talk to him about this bill.
Representative, yes. Representative Bowling and I have had quite a few conversations going forward of once this passes out of committee, of his assistance as it makes its way through the chamber.
Okay, great. And let me just say I appreciate your comments, and I'm gonna vote yes, as well as vote yes on Representative King's resolution coming up. But I'd much rather these things be decided at the states rather than the federal government. Thank you.
Representative Riley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree completely with you guys that this should have been handled elsewhere. The NCAA is an organization that should have handled it. I think we're going to have problems when we have 50 different state laws to deal with this. Of course, there have been a lot of rumors about NIL throughout the process. One of the biggest is a rumor that universities have used in recruiting multi-million-dollar slush funds, or whatever you want to use as wording for that. And I know that's created a big buzz in the world of college athletics, particularly college football. Does this bill deal with recruiting in any way, shape, or form?
Thank you. That's a great question, Representative Riley. And yes, this has been a big point of emphasis in the bill, is the prohibition of what we call inducements, right? When you are promising a name, image, and likeness deal, when you are getting something to a student athlete before they come here, that is expressly prohibited. And now that is a statutory cause of action. So there can be no inducements, no promises made to prospective student athletes under this bill.
Thank you, Senator McGarvey. And I agree with that completely. But because of the way the NCAA handles it, it's still going to create a major problem as far as recruiting is concerned. And I know, if universities are doing this in other states, and the rumors are pretty heavy that it's being done, then it creates a disadvantage for schools that are doing it the right way. And so that's why I think it's even incumbent more on the NCAA to wrap their arms around this and get this issue under control, because it's going to be a big problem for a number of years.
I agree with you, and this is another example of why the NCAA should be leading the charge from this instead of following from behind. We also, as you all know, we can't legislate outside our borders. What we did do is take the additional step with the transfer portal of also saying that other places in the country cannot induce our current student athletes here, and creates a cause of action from that, so that they're not trying to come in and poach our student athletes under some type of other law. I'll also say that this is something that the governor's worked on, Representative Bowling has worked on, Senator Wise has worked on, there's been a lot of people working on, and my guess is this is not the last time this idea will be in front of the legislature. As this continues to evolve on the national landscape, I think this is something we will revisit as well.
Thank all of you for your work. Thank you.
Representative Timoney.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you all for bringing this forward. This is definitely something that, in my opinion, the NCAA dropped the ball on, and we definitely needed to address it. Some thoughts as we're moving forward, and Senator McGarvey, you just kind of went in the direction. I think that one of my big concerns, obviously, are students. Okay, and as we go through this, as long as the NCAA continues to punt on this issue, sorry with all the athletic puns, but they work with this one. We need to be monitoring our student athletes and have a committee of student athletes so they can report back the things that are working for them, the things that are not working for them. Again, just like everybody else has stated up here, these bills can be a slippery slope to the bottom. And I'm pleased to see that the work has been put in to make sure that this is not. This is committed to our standards and our values, and we'll ensure that our student athletes are happy and healthy, and hopefully those mid-level athletes that sometimes feel like they need to jump because their communities are dependent on money and income, maybe this income will keep them in college a little bit longer. And I see this as a financial advantage for them to stick around, get a degree, and then test the waters a little bit later. So thank you all for bringing this.
Representative Gibbons-Prunty.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the bill, and I especially appreciate the guardrails and the safeties for the students with the financial literacy and life skills to protect them from being taken advantage of. My question is, and I'm an UK alum, so don't hold that against me, but I was deeply disturbed when they took the knee at the Florida game, and I wrote Calipari about it, and I wrote Stoops about it when they ran out with the flags proudly at the ball game. With what's going on in light of Russia and Ukraine, is there anything, I didn't see it, I read the bill last night, I didn't see anything in there, is there any protection for, to me, if you're wearing Kentucky's name or U of L's name, if you're wearing a school's name, you shouldn't be doing political things. Whatever you do on your own time should be free to do. But when you're getting state dollars, to me there's an issue there. How does this affect that issue or relate to that at all, if it does?
Thank you. One, most of these athletes are not getting state dollars. These athletes are getting athletic scholarships that are funded by the athletic departments. Two, this does not strip student athletes of their First Amendment rights, which they have, and we're not trying to take away in this bill. Three, as Representative Timoney indicated, this bill is geared toward the student athlete, to benefit the student athlete as the student athlete continues to grow, to make their own decisions, to create their own brands, to benefit from being in school from their name, image, and likeness. So that's where the bill sits.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Bojanowski.
Yes, thank you. I do have just one clarification as I read the bill. Will these students be able to use in the name, image, and likeness materials or whatever is produced, the logos and the uniforms of the universities?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion on the bill.
Thank you very much. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the bill by Representative Banta, a second by Representative Timoney. Mariah, please call the roll.
Representative Baker?
Yes.
Representative Banta?
Yes.
Representative Bojanowski?
Yes.
Representative Decker?
Yes.
Representative Donahue?
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Dossett?
Yes.
Representative Hart?
Yes.
Representative Koenig? Yes. Representative Lewis?
Yes.
Representative Massey?
Yes.
Representative McCool?
Yes.
Representative Miller?
Yes.
Representative Gibbons-Prunty?
Yes.
Representative Rayburn?
Yes.
Representative Riley?
Yes.
Representative Scott?
Yes.
Representative Timoney?
Yes.
Representative Tipton?
Yes.
Representative Weber?
Yes.
Representative White? Representative Wilner?
Thank you for the bill, and yes.
Chair Huff.
Yes. Senate Bill 6 passes with expression of opinion that the same should pass. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also think that vote count was about the same score that Coach Walls had the Notre Dame women's team down in the first minute of the ball game on Sunday. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Next, we will address House Concurrent Resolution 94, a concurrent resolution urging the United States federal government to take steps to ensure international intercollegiate athletes may take advantage of the same state name, image, and likeness laws. So this is just continuing with that topic. If Representative King would please come to the table, introduce yourself for the record. If you have any guests joining you, and please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Representative Kim King, serving Jessamine, Mercer, and Washington counties. And in my 12 years of service, I've never had the opportunity of addressing the Education Committee, so I appreciate the opportunity this morning. And I think the chair was very wise in hearing these two NIL proposals today. It is the first day of March where excitement and madness, if you will, is building here in Kentucky.
Well, we have a motion on the bill by Representative Riley, a second by Representative Massey. Does anyone have any questions for Representative King? Not.
I would just like to clarify that
Okay.
this is just to ensure that our international student athletes have the same opportunities, and we will need to tap into the federal government to make sure that we get that in place. So that's the nature of HCR 94.
Thank you.
Representative Baker.
Yes.
Representative Banta.
Yes.
Representative Bojanowski.
Yes.
Representative Decker.
Yes.
Representative Donahue.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Dossett.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Koenig. Yes. Representative Lewis.
Yes.
Representative Massey.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Yes.
Representative Gibbons Prunty.
Yes.
Representative Rayburn.
Yes.
Representative Riley.
Yes.
Representative Scott.
Yes.
Representative Timoney.
Yes.
Representative Tipton.
Yes.
Representative Weber.
Yes.
Representative White. Representative Wilner.
Yes.
Chair Huff.
Yes. House Concurrent Resolution 94 passes with expression of opinion that the same should pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Thank you. That is all of the business that we have to take care of today. Does anyone have any parting words of wisdom or anything you would like to share? Not from this end.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Representative Lewis, a second by Representative Timoney. Let me quickly share that we may have a special call meeting this week. Please be aware of that and pay attention to your communications. We are adjourned.